Comic book and manga fans, this is H.H. Sherman from Sigma Comics with another video for you from the greatest city in the world, New York City. And as always, I like to get it started with a sip of the Calico mug. Always good. We have quite the video today. I've been infrequent with the videos because we are entering an extremely busy season full of Kickstarters and conventions. So apologies for the lack of frequency on the videos, but here we are getting it done for animals. And we've got a great topic today. Before we start, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and remember we have our comic books, Here Comes Calico comic books, on our website, sigmacomics.com. We have issues 1 through 8. Absolutely awesome series. The Calico gets intel on people who abuse and kill animals, and he deletes them in very powerful ways. So give that a shot. And then, of course, we have our Kickstarter campaigns. Right now, we have a Kickstarter for our manga series. This is Volume 1 here, Volume 2, and Volume 3. Volume 4 is on Kickstarter right now. So head on over there and check that out, or get the whole set. We appreciate your support. Every penny goes to fighting animal abuse. All right, so comic book fans have heard this question before, okay? It is, who would win in a fight, the Punisher or Batman? The Batman or Punisher, right? So, you know, us experienced comic book readers, we can receive a question like that and pretty much turn an answer around within, you know, nanoseconds, right? So the idea for this video, and by the way, this video has been done. There's quite a few videos out there talking about who to win, Batman or the Punisher, right? In a fight, right? Mano a mano, who would win that fight? There's quite a few videos out there. But here's the difference and why this video is going to be the very best video you will ever see on that question, on that topic. Let me give you the rationale, okay? Let me qualify that statement. Virtually 100% of, not virtually, you know what? All of those videos, 100% of those videos have been done by people with zero fighting background. Okay, these are people who are talking about who would win a fight, who they themselves do not have a fighting background, do not understand the intricacies of what goes into a fight. Okay? And not just any fight, we break it down in this video, 2 types of confrontations, right? The mano a mano contest. This is one man meet, and they duke it out to see who is best, right? That's a contest versus a snuff operation, meaning one guy's going after the other and vice versa. Who's going to win that interaction, that combat, right? 2 very different scenarios. No video that you're going to see on the web has ever broken that down, and we're going to have fun with this topic. So buckle in and get ready for a knowledgeable combat expert, a fighter, someone who's been in the ring and in the octagon and in the street, okay, for many, many, many years, and has seen countless scenarios. I really think you're gonna appreciate what this video reveals. So anyway, let's jump into it. All right, so let's start with the contest, the mano a mano, man versus man, right in front of each other. It's a contest. Okay, so let's first break it down. All right, let's start with the fight strategy. A very important part of fighting is who establishes his or her fight strategy best in the fight. Let me give you an example, okay? We're going to use fighters that we all know to show you what I mean by this, the fight strategy, all right? So who's in the news right now fighting? Who's got a big fight coming up? Mike Tyson. Probably the most well-known fighter who's, you know, semi-active. If I was going to say active, but he really isn't active. He's actually officially retired, and he takes, you know, contests here and there. but he's a huge name. He's a legend, obviously, and we're going to use him as an example. There's two key reasons why Tyson won the overwhelming majority of his fights. And what I'm about to say can be easily qualified by many people who A, either are fighters themselves, or B, have been studying fighting for a very long time, for decades, okay? The first thing that Tyson does, it fight strategy-wise, that allows him to win the fights, and probably the most important is, he intimidates the opponent. Okay, every visual that he puts out leading up to the fight is absolutely horrifying. Okay, and when you're actually there in front of him in the ring, his mannerisms, they're absolutely shivering inducing to the opponent. Okay, this is a guy who walks into the ring with no robe, never has. He comes in with a towel with a slice in it. Okay, with no socks. Meaning he's coming in there for business. It's not about show. It's not about, big fireworks going off when he goes in the ring, being carried in, on a throne. No horses riding in. None of that craziness. Okay, the man walks into the ring with a towel and no socks. He's there to put you in the hospital. Okay, that's just horrifying. And then of course his visuals. Okay, the guy's got a massive neck. He moves around. He moves that neck, okay, to unlock any stiffness he might have. I mean, this is quite a sight. Okay, as someone who's been in the ring and have fought formidable opponents, of course, Well, let me not put myself into the story. The bottom line is it's very intimidating. All right. The second thing that Tyson does, very important, is he fights his fight. He tries to set the tone and pace of the fight to benefit his style of fighting. What does that mean? Well, Tyson only has 71-inch reach. Okay, I'm 5'10". Tyson is supposedly, or even when he was fighting in his prime, 5'11 and a half. His reach is 71. Okay, so I have a 6-foot reach. That's 72. Okay, from arm to arm, from fist to fist. He's got a 71, meaning my reach is actually longer than him, and I'm 5'10". Okay, of course I fought as a middleweight, not as a heavyweight. What does that mean? It means he has short arms. Certainly compared to the fighters who he's going to be fighting against. If you actually look at the tail of the tape of a lot of Tyson's fights, they tend to be 80 and above, meaning the competitors have a reach of 80 and above. And he's always at a 10-inch reach deficiency. All right? So what does he do? He fights right in front of them. He doesn't fight a range fight against guys who are much bigger with a longer reach. He fights right in front of them. And that's why he wins a lot of his fights. A, he intimidates him, and B, he's able to fight his fight that benefits his overall style of fighting. Now let's take that into Frank and Bruce. All right? Both guys are listed over 6 feet, just at around 6 feet. If I'm not mistaken, Batman is around 6'1", 6'2", or right at that, and so is Frank. All right? They're about the same height. Weight-wise, I'm pretty sure they're both around the same weight as well. They're right at the 200-pound mark, slightly above, I think. So their tail of the tape is pretty much identical. All right? So physiologically, they're pretty much the same there. Now, how about temperament-wise? Okay, let's look at the way Bruce was raised. He was raised without siblings, alone in a very big space, with access and resources to, to fighting tutelage. Okay, this man is trained in not only one but several disciplines, fighting disciplines. Okay, his temperament is very focused. He's got a laser focus on the target, and he's very well trained. Okay, Frank is a former Marine. This is a man with combat training that comes from the military. Okay, so virtually all of Frank's training is from the military. All right, and there, You also have sort of a tiered fighting tutelage, if you will, but it's nowhere near as sophisticated as you would get with someone who has very sort of acute training, like Bruce Wayne. When you have a more focused training background like Bruce Wayne, I think that is an advantage over the Punisher. And what does that mean? That from a hand-to-hand combat skill-wise, there's a very good chance that Batman has the edge there. Okay, Bruce Wayne has the edge on that. Okay, so and at the end, after we summarize the mano a mano, the other part of this is, if they're wearing their suits, right? And that's a big factor. We're going to get to that in a little bit. But one thing I will say for the military training, I'm going to give you an example. Again, another real world example. As someone who came up with the military training, Ray Mercer is an excellent example. Pretty much all of his boxing training came from, the military. He didn't come from a purely boxing background like, most other fighters. And he was able to achieve contender status. Now, he never became a champion, but he was certainly a top contender. And in an era of very, tough heavyweights, right? And he fought some pretty tough hombres there. That said, he lost. When it came to achieving the high level technician, fighters, he lost the fights. Yeah, he was able to beat the brawlers like Tommy Morrison and in convincing fashion, and some other folks. But when he fought your more top-notch opponents, I believe he fought Lennox Lewis, and he lost the fight handily. If I'm not mistaken, he fought David Tua, if I'm not mistaken, and Tua beat him, and some other guys. Ray Mercer was beatable. It was just a very difficult fight. And frankly, you were going to hurt the next day. He was certainly not an easy fighter to beat. And I think that's kind of the way it would work with Batman and the Punisher. I think ultimately, from a hand-to-hand, skill-wise level, Batman would win the fight. But it would be extremely excruciating the next day for him when he woke up. So now let's talk about another extremely important part of fighting, and it's endurance. Okay, when two opponents meet, it's extremely important to be at your peak fitness for the fight. That's what fighters do, in fact, leading up to the fight. In the weeks leading up to the fight, they specifically attempt to peak their conditioning so that they are at the pinnacle, at the height of their athleticism, so that their output is higher than at any level of their training. Okay, you would be surprised at the intense level of sparring that takes place. I don't care if you're a boxer, an MMA fighter, judoka, whatever. There's a lot of sparring that goes on. Okay, I know for myself, I would say 70%, maybe a little less, maybe 65% of my training was sparring, and these days that's frowned upon because of the brain damage associated with that. You'll see that a lot of the guys who favored the heavy sparring, like someone like Ali, very much liked a lot of sparring in his training, even though he trained extremely hard. He really liked to spar. Probably the best example of that in boxing is James Toney. James Toney is notorious for loathing, absolutely loathing training. He just wants to spar. That's all he wants to do. Now, what does that yield? The man is an absolutely brilliant tactician. I mean, he's a fantastic pugilist. With his hands, it's just, I can't even describe. It's like watching beauty in front of you, like a ballet, with how he is with his hands, James Toney. He's remarkable. His defense is impeccable. He's just wonderful to see. But look at his physique. Okay, at the heavyweight division, of course, is where you were able to glean just how horrendous visually he was. He wasn't that in shape. So that's why he was beaten when he was. It's because the man was out of shape. Now you put that man in great shape, he's unstoppable. Okay? I think the only person to ever beat James Toney convincingly was Roy Jones Jr. And of course that was Roy Jones in his prime. Probably the best light heavyweight fighter of all time. I mean, the man was incomparable. All right, so from an endurance perspective, Frank versus Bruce, Batman versus the Punisher. Listen, I take it back to training. Batman's training is elite level. It's possibly better from an overall perspective, not just the fighting, but the overall training, the everyday getting in shape, strategies that you need to effect, not strategies, but exercises that you need to effect, again, on a daily basis to get your body in that peak shape. I think I also have to give it to Bruce Wayne, and here's why. He has access to a massive training facility in the Batcave. Okay, the man is able to continuously keep himself in absolutely fantastic shape. Okay, what does Frank have? He has the New York City. If he wants to go out and run, he can do that. If he wants to do his training, he can do that. But when you're talking about a man who's living and breathing, literally living, he's living. That's part of his living. Is Bruce Wayne in the training, in the Batcave and all that. It's literally the same place. He can access those facilities, and he's mastered that facility, over decades to be the peak, performer that he is. Whereas whereas Frank is out, doing a lot of, Frank stuff, doing investigating, working the street, the pavement, working on weaponry, cleaning, all kinds of things. Frank is mainly, his main weapon of choice is the gun. And let me be clear who I'm talking about. I'm talking about Frank Castle, not this aberration that was put in recently by Marvel. I don't even know the guy's name, the guy they put in there, and it failed. It's Frank Castle, folks. That's who the Punisher is, and who I'm talking about. Okay, and I'm talking about a prime Frank Castle here, not this BS that we've had coming out of Marvel for the past 10, 15 years. I'm talking about Frank Castle, written by Mike Baron, Chuck Dixon, Garth Ennis. That's who I'm talking about, not this BS that's coming out of Marvel these days. All right. Frank is he's a toiler. He toils. He's in the warehouse doing the work, messing with his guns, making sure the weaponry and the tools that he's going to be using that night are going to work really well. Does he train? Absolutely, no doubt about it. But in terms of for fighting, for the hand-to-hand, I think I'm going to give that to Bruce Wayne. So I give that a check on Bruce. Now, very important as part of fighting, as someone who came in the New York boxing system, and then of course eventually I fought in MMA, one of the things that was very evident to me from a very young age was the importance of willpower. Your will in that ring or in that octagon or in the street when you're in a fight. Who's going to lose the will battle? This is very important. You get punched in the face. Clocked right in the face. Some people have a very different response to that. Okay, some people you can break them right there. All right, you punch them in the face and how that makes them feel. Some people fall apart. Some people, they get very aggressive. That turns them on. They taste blood. They turn red and they're going for it. Okay, I would say that both fighters, both opponents, Batman and the Punisher, have a deep rage within them. Okay, that's innate. Bruce, from a very young age, okay, he's been holding that pain for a very long time. Okay, this kid, he was he was in elementary school when his parents got killed. Both of them, not just one. Both of them got popped right in front of him in the street. That's effed up. Okay, that's effed up. You're gonna carry a burning rage for a very long time, and then with the stiff upper lip way he was raised, in that mansion with all that money, you could definitely hold on to a bit of rage like that, and you're not showing it, bursting it, having an outburst of rage. You got it You grow up that way? Sure, yeah. You're going to have a lot of bottled up rage. Frank Castle, he saw a lot of very gross and wicked things in battle prior to his family being executed right in front of him. His rage was more mature, came much later in life as an adult, a family man, okay? But this is the family that he created himself. Okay, Bruce was part of that family. He didn't create that family. He was a kid in that family. Okay, he was still independent, still growing, not fully formed. Frank is a fully formed human being when the family that he formed was butchered right in front of him. His own creation. Do you understand how deep and powerful that is for as a man to have your family that you created taken away from you, that you built with another human being, whose soul you bonded with, okay, whose heart you bonded with, okay? That's something, folks. That's something. I've known of people that have done horrendous things to themselves for less. Bruce has been carrying that rage for a longer time than Frank. His rage is more mature. That being Bruce's rage is more mature, so simply because he's been holding on to it for a long time. But pound for pound, the volume, the sheer volume of rage, the mass of rage, if we want to use scientific terms, I believe the mass of rage that the Punisher is holding on to is more powerful. I'll say that. Okay, the mass, the volume is deeper. For that reason, I'm going to say that Frank's will, his scrappiness, is going to beat out Bruce's. Okay, this guy is a street guy. His family's ripped away from him, right in front of him. He was also victimized. Okay, Frank didn't just watch it and that was it. He got shot too. He was popped up pretty good and left for dead. So he quite literally felt the pain of losing, of what happened to his family. That makes it even worse. He was there with them. So he knows the pain that those little kids felt when they got pumped with rounds. Okay? So, of lead. That's horrifying. Your own kids. Nah. I'm going to give that to Frank there with the willpower. This guy's he's going to take your shot and he's going to keep coming. This mofo is going to keep coming for your ass. All right? Finally, the opponents. All right? How do they size up? Very important part of the matchup. Who's had a more challenging rogue gallery? All right? I mean, Batman, by all accounts, has the most impressive rogue gallery of pretty much any hero, any superhero in comics. All right? And the Punisher has some pretty sadistic, disgusting, pieces of that he's fought against, that deserved, all the death that they had coming to them at the hands of Frank. I would say, based on, I've read a lot of Batman and a lot of Punisher. I'm frankly a Marvel guy. I grew up reading Marvel comics. Spider-Man was really the first superhero that I was attracted to, and I read pretty much, well, not pretty much all, but many of the titles, from Amazing to Spectacular to Web, and of course the Spider-Man title itself when McFarlane took it over. Well, not took it over, but it was created for him to write and draw. And I would say that Batman simply has the deeper rogues gallery. He's also fought against actual super villains, which is different from Frank, in that Frank is mostly fought against your, street level criminals, which is not to say that he hasn't also fought against superheroes. He has. I'm sorry, super villains. In fact, that's actually more impressive. Frank has not only fought against super villains, but he's fought against superheroes as well. Whereas Batman really hasn't fought against superheroes other than his interactions with Superman here and there. Of course, it's because Superman lets him win. But opponent-wise, I really still have to give it to Batman because he's fought some pretty intense characters. I mean, Bane himself. I mean, that mofo packs a serious wallop, and he's no effing joke. Bane is probably the most intense and serious customer from an opponent's side that you're going to have in comics. And again, which is not to say that Frank hasn't had his battles against some pretty tough competition. That guy Barracuda is no joke, and Frank worked him up pretty good. Barracuda, I haven't read many of the interactions, but I know that Frank ultimately has had quite a bit of prevailing over Barracuda versus Batman's experiences with Bane. I mean, that's just a rough customer there. I'm going to give that to Batman. All right. So that's on the contest. Overall, I think I give the edge to Batman. Batman versus the Punisher. He has the fight strategy. He gets a check there on the fight strategy. I think he gets a check on the hand-to-hand combat. I think he gets a check on the endurance. The willpower, I give it to Frank. And the opponents, I give it to Bruce. So if you add those all up, there's just more check marks on the Batman side. Okay, frankly, I'm a little bit more of a fan of the Punisher, truth be told. But mano a mano, I think that from a contest perspective, I think Bruce Wayne Batman wins that. All right. Now let's go on to the snuff operation. If the guy's coming after you. All right. So this is not a mano a mano contest. This is one guy's going after the other, or vice versa. Who's going to come out of this? All right. Well, let's start with preparation. All right. Who's going to prepare better for the interaction to take the other guy out? Batman has infinite resources. He's got the Batcave with all the computers. He has consultants as well to bounce ideas off of. When Microchip was in the picture, listen, I would say there was more parity. I love Microchip. He's one of my favorite characters in comics, frankly. By the way, created by my two mentors, Mike Baron and Klaus Janson, two people who were seminal to the Calico character, the creation of the Calico character, all right? Or the success, I should say, of the Calico character. They're both sort of at the same level. It's just that Bruce Wayne has more tools, okay? He's got more tools, and by tools, I just mean preparation tools. I don't mean the actual weapons or anything like that. I mean, when you're going to sit down with a piece of paper, okay, or a computer, to figure out where this guy is, what strengths and weaknesses he has, where he's going to be, what part of the city, what's the water table. All these things are very important. What's the weather? I'm going to give that. I was this close to giving it to Batman, but here's the thing. This guy's a military guy. All right, and he's a survivor. We're talking about Rambo level shit here with the Punisher. All right, Frank Castle's a guy running around New York City with Rambo level training and experience. Okay, he's gonna make makeshift maps all around. He knows the sewer system, the buildings. Not that Batman doesn't. It's just nitty gritty wise, scrap wise. I think Frank. I'm gonna give this. This is a wash. I'm gonna give it a tie here on this one, because when you look at being a survivor in urban combat, okay, maps, strategy, the Punisher, Frank Castle, hands down, he's got that. It's just this guy, Batman here, Bruce Wayne, he has resources to really map out a successful campaign against your ass, to rub you out anywhere in the street in Gotham. All right? Tie, preparation. Next is tactics. Who's the better tactician? Batman or the Punisher? Again, very similar to the preparation. In terms of tactics, we've seen in the comics that Bruce Wayne is a master tactician and detective. And, he's got the goods when it comes to the tactics. He has the resources and weaponry to allow him to put out an extremely effective tactical response to any situation, including going after somebody and taking them out, taking the target out. But listen, the same can be said for Frank Castle, the Punisher. Again, this is an elite level military veteran who's set loose in the streets of New York City. All right, and that's something big. New York is not like just any other place. There's a lot of angles and concrete in that place. A lot of stinky places, a lot of extremely dangerous places where you have to know the terrain really well in order to get what you want off. Okay, by the way, this is an offensive measure, not defensive. Okay, because that's a whole different ball game. Frank knows how to take you out anywhere in the city. Like, he's good at it, and he's going to get that job done. And he's going to walk away knowing he's only going to walk away when the job's finished. Whereas Batman's going to he calls in the troops once he's done doing his thing. It's close, but you know what? I'm going to have to give it a tie because it's just too close. Batman's going to get you one way or another. He's going to find out where you are. He's going to find out where you are, and he's going to render you useless so that Commissioner Gordon and his 5-0 team can go, lock you up. Obviously, Frank, you're not going to be walking after Frank's done with you. All right? So, tactician-wise, I think they're the same. Weaponry. Okay? Batman versus the Punisher. Batman, again, he's going to have an advantage because he's got infinite moolah. Okay? And he's got tons of resources. Whatever weapon he wants, he's going to find it, and he's going to put it in play. Both combatants are very effective at successfully deploying the weapons they use. All right? I forgot to get this. I just have to do this for optics. I do have it somewhere here. Hold on a second. I did want to have this for the video, but I'm gonna get this for the video. Hold on one second, guys. I have to show you this because this is absolutely hilarious. You guys are gonna appreciate this. Oh, I don't have it. I put it away. Sorry for the delay. I'm not one to edit videos, so I was going to show you this hilarious cover. It's actually, many of you already know it. It's the Punisher #1 of the Unlimited series. The Punisher has a bazooka that he's aiming directly into a window. I mean, it doesn't get crazier than that. All right, Batman's not going to do some crazy stuff like that. The Punisher is out of control, folks. He's going to get you one way or another, okay, and he's going to bring the goods. He doesn't have the resources that Bruce Wayne does, but he's going to find the right weapon to rub you out. And sometimes it's not the right weapon. He's still going to take you out. All right, so just on the fact that the Punisher is crazy enough to whip out any weapon to take you out, I'm just going to give that to the Punisher. Again, Batman can most certainly and will. He has access to all manner of weapons that he's going to use to get the job done. But frankly, Frank can use anything and take you out. All right, as noted in that Punisher #1 cover. So I'm just going to give it to Frank on that. On top of the fact that he takes out most of his targets using weapons, whereas Batman does not. Okay, Batman has pretty equal parity, if not more, on the fighting side to take you out. All right, so I'm going to give the weaponry to the Punisher. Not only his usage of them, but also, employment, knowledge, know-how, etc., etc. Elusiveness. Very important when someone's, coming after you. How elusive are you going to be, to duck? In essence, that's a defensive measure, right? So very important as part of the reaction to being, someone coming after you, right? And to take you out. Batman versus the Punisher. Who's more elusive in defensive measure? I'm going to say Batman, because Batman is the night. He lives in the shadow. He spends a very good portion of his time just stalking. Okay, not unlike the Punisher, but the Punisher, someone's going to drive a truck right through your living room. Right? He's known to do that. He's going to light a match and blow up your whole building. That's not really Batman at all. Okay, the Punisher has an edge in offensive awe. Okay, he's that shock and awe. That's the Punisher. Okay, Batman is, in my view, more of an elusive target. The cape is also a very defensive asset to have, because he can cloak himself. He can make that cape form lots of different things. When he's in the shadows, when he's, on different backgrounds, he can definitely use that cape to do some things. Also, wrap people up and do, and defend himself that way. There's things you can do with that cape. Okay, it's not just for looks. I'm going to give the elusiveness to Batman because of his overall combat aesthetic. Okay. Finally, survivability. Who's the rougher, tougher customer? Who's going to survive the attack? Who has a better chance of surviving the attack? Batman or the Punisher? Both men are human level. Okay, peak human level. They do not have superpowers. They're both men who wear weaponry and armor. This is a tough one. Survivability. Listen. All of Bruce's challenges, well, not all of them. All of them, when they come to his training, were self-imposed. Okay, this is a man who wanted to become better, stronger, faster, more rugged. I don't think you can. Well, I was going to say I don't think you can teach survivability or toughness, but you can. You can train yourself to be tougher, and survive things. Okay, it's just you have to. It's a practice, and frankly, it's a spiritual thing. It's how tough your mind is. A lot of survivability is how tough is your mind. We've all heard stories or seen in the news people whose boat had a problem in the middle of a river, okay, or ocean, and they survived by treading water for hours on end. That's tough, folks. And you know what? That's not just muscle action. That's mind. In fact, I'm going to tell you, somebody who was a former professional athlete, who has challenged myself, who has been in situations where I have to leverage my mental, physical, and spiritual strength to survive situations. That mind-spirit relationship is extremely important. Okay, and that gets into the spirituality of both of these characters, Batman and Frank Castle. Okay, as I said before, Bruce has had to deal with a very terrible thing that happened to him at a very young age. Okay, so he's needed to tap into his spirit for a much longer time than Frank has. Okay, man, this is really tough. Survivability. Bruce has been in there against some pretty stiff opponents, forcing him to dig deep down. I mean, just on his fight against his first bad fight with Bane. Not just his first fight, but his first few fights with Bane there. His first interaction with Bane, that takes a lot. He had to go into that well. Okay? He had to go into that well, deep in that well, and dig himself out. Frank has had very bad situations as well. He's been close to dying many times. Okay? Both characters have been close to dying. Alfred's a certified surgeon at this point. He's a certified ICU nurse, right? It's really tough. the thing about it is, Frank's alone. No one helps Frank unless, again, Micro's in the picture, or he happens to be, you know, shacked up with somebody who wants to take care of him, right? So Frank's a military guy. Just being in combat, you know, military is really something, because it's two things. When you're deployed in war, okay? One thing is being stationed abroad as part of a war in combat. The other thing is being in war, all right? When you're actually sleeping in foxholes and trenches and in trees, okay, in swamps. Just imagine sleeping in a swamp. Okay, all those parasites and deadly animals, those vipers. That's Frank Castle, folks. All right? That's some serious shit. All right? But you know what? It's still tough because we're talking about Batman here. You know, I'm still going to give this to Frank. I'm still going to give this to Frank. It's just that dude has been through some crazy scenarios. Again, not that Bruce hasn't, but it's really close, and it's a slight edge. I'm going to give it to Frank. All right? Snuff operation, who's going to get you? I'm going to give it to the Punisher. The Punisher is going to get you one way or another. He's going to blow up your building. He's going to drive a helicopter into your house. It doesn't matter. Frank's going to get you. Bruce is going to get you too, but I don't think he's going to get to you with the shock and awe that Frank's going to get you. I think it's close, but I think Frank Castle, the Punisher, wins the who's going to snuff you out, who's going to get you on the street, wherever you are. When it comes to you being a target, it's going to be Frank. Frank's going to get you. He's going to get you good. So there it is, folks. Hand-to-hand combat. Batman gets the edge. In terms of going after somebody, who's going to win that fight? Batman versus Punisher, I give it to the Punisher. All right, so that's it. Let me know in the comments what you think. This has been a great video. I think I enjoyed doing the video, and I'm really curious to hear what you have to say. Folks, remember, we have an active Kickstarter. Go on Kickstarter.com and type in "Here Comes Calico." You're going to see an awesome manga series featuring the Calico, a bad mofo. This guy right here. Okay, this guy does not mess around. All right, who would win the Calico versus Batman and the Punisher? Well, you got to wait for another video for that. Folks, keep on fighting for animals.